Hello and welcome to
Absolute Game of Nerd!
I'm JP. That's Rohan. We're the non-geek, non-nerd hosts. And with us today, we have Eric from SideQuest Comics, who really enjoyed our intro, which I can appreciate very much because my kid did that. So I'm glad I can totally appreciate the laugh. So thank you, sir.
Well, one of the things we were discussing, JP, before logging on is, he has his background.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Nice.
I think you guys should start a thing that every time you have a guest come on, they have to imitate Ogre. I mean, he's classic at this point, right?
All right, well, Eric, be our first.
Will I be the first?
Yeah, let's see it. Let's see it.
Wait. I have to put this back on. You saw this, Rohan, so I dug this sucker out, and it kind of fits still.
The old Letterman's jacket.
Nerds!
I had an old neighbor that would just call us nerds, and he sounded like Ogre. He's about as big as Ogre, too, and sounded just like him.
Yeah, I had a buddy in school that had that same build, and it was one of my buddies that we would get together, play darts and Magic and board games, and every time we get together, that's how we started the festivities. He had to yell at us nerds.
Yeah, it's something that we grew up with that we love. It has a special place in our heart. The Revenge of the Nerds, Poindexter and Skolnick and all those guys, and especially the Alphabetas.
Yeah. Anyways, everyone, as JP mentioned, we have Eric from SideQuest. I have seen Eric because another good buddy of the channel, Ryan Colossus Collector, has his Council of X streams, which are very fun to watch. If you haven't checked those out, go sub over to his channel for those. But Eric has been a frequent guest, and I hit up Ryan one day. I was like, I've never met this Eric guy. I got to reach out to him and get him on and have him on the show. And here we are today for his first time on the show. So Eric, thanks for coming on. How you doing today?
Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I have a lot of fun interacting with those guys. I mean, we're all X-Men fanatics, so I just kind of fit right in. I mean, that was my starting point in comics, really. It was just always, as long as I can remember, it's always been X-Men with me. I've read other ones, but I always go back to X-Men.
Yeah. And also, everyone, before the show, I also learned that Eric is a postman. So he's the one transporting all of our books. So
a lot of whatnot.
Don't speak trash of the USPS during this call here. I will say just real quick, I loved the X-Men draft episode. That was a fun episode.
That was so much fun. And, at first it was kind of like, okay, I had ideas, but every time I had an idea, somebody in front of me would take it. And I was just like, oh my God, I got to think on the spot now.
JP, I don't know if you watched that episode at all. Did you have time to check that one out? So it's a long episode. They did I don't know I can't remember how many of them, but they basically just like a sports draft. They went 1 through whatever, and they just picked characters from X-Men to create their own team. That being said, I was shocked how long it took for Professor X to get picked.
Yeah, I think it's not so much the power level, but his personality. Not very many people.
But I mean, when you're assembling a team, you need some people that can fuck shit up. So,
yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those. I talked to Ryan. It's like, okay, what kind of team are you looking for? And he said, just make a team that you think would be fun. That type of thing. And I know some people were kind of doing that power drafting. It's like, okay, I'm going straight for the power.
I would go for all power, baby. Yeah.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, I think we had close to 30 X-Men characters to pick from, and we basically did 5 or 6 rounds is what we did.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some that I'm not as versed into the more modern X-Men, so there was definitely some I didn't know. But that being said, you're obviously, as you mentioned, an X-Men fanatic. It's kind of how you started, you were saying. But our first question is always what is your origin story? So why don't you go and start at the beginning?
Well, my origin story can go way back before the internet because I am older than the internet.
Hey, so I think everyone here is older than the internet.
Right. Yeah. If you couldn't tell by
not me though, not me. I'm going to both of you guys.
Yeah, JP just had his 21 run this last weekend. So,
but I think I've always been into comic books in a little bit because, like we mentioned earlier backstage, as a young kid, I was an only child. So a lot of times how I entertained myself and kept myself busy was I drew. So, I got drawn into comic books just based on the art. And a lot of it still today is, and I think that there's variance because of this, is the artwork. I'll see the artwork on the cover, and regardless of what the story is and stuff, a lot of times I'll pick it up just based on that.
I don't think you're alone in that sense.
Oh,
That's how I pick up most of mine. So
every week it's just like, why did I buy 4 copies of the same comic? The cover. It just don't learn. But yeah, that was, I think that, and I mean, I was drawn into, stuff like Amazing Spider-Man and, his Amazing Friends. The old cartoon is really kind of what drew me.
oh yeah,
And I think some of it too is being a child that had that kind of art bug. My parents really fueled it, and they would get me books like my dad. Some of my oldest books. There's one here you'll like, Rohan. One of my first comic books I ever got, and I still got it, is this one from 1970 that my dad gave me. He bought it off the spinner rack way before I was even a thought, and eventually he gave it to me. I mean, he gave me this one. He gave me a bunch of these Amazing Spider-Mans from the same time.
That's a great one. The origin of
yeah, I'm like, I remember once I realized what it was, I was like, oh, I'm gonna put that in a nice bag and save it. But then he gave me like a bunch of these too. Unfortunately, no number 1, but I mean, I remember reading these as a kid and being like, this kind of a variety: Spider-Man, Silver Surfer, and then X-Men. I had a whole gambit of different worlds in the comics, so it really drew me in. And I think because of this is why I'm such an X-Men fan. It was one of my early introductions into comics. So yeah, I've just always been, I think, and once I discovered Wolverine, I mean, you see it, I got
it over there. Yeah.
It was all done for me.
Awesome. Yeah, no. And then, so did your interest in comics, love of comics, did it carry through, or was there any pauses, breaks?
I think, like many of us that collect comics as kids and through high school and stuff, once I got into college, and out of college is when I took my break, because I started family, I had to pay mortgage, and then I was busy trying to start my career. Yeah, I was like, I didn't have time to spend the money on the books. And granted, some of it at that time period was the 90s. So I wasn't a big fan of a lot of those books. They just seemed a lot of samey to me. So I kept my eye on them, and maybe once in a great while I got them. But yeah, I had like a probably 20-year break where I just wasn't actively collecting. And I think it was just before COVID, right around COVID, I got this idea of, I want to go through my old collection and rebag, reboard, see what I'm missing. We were all kind of bored at that time. So I started chasing issues to fill runs out. A lot of those runs were like Wolverine, X-Men, Doctor Strange, Silver Surfer, stuff that I collected back in the day. And I've completed some of them since then. Like Wolverine was a big one. I have every regular issue of that series. I mean, that was my favorite. X-Men is still an ongoing. I'm still working on the original series. I have all the rest of them, but the original. I need 94 down.
Oh, so you've got 94 on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, when you collect those ones, there was a period of time where they were just retelling the stories.
Yeah, that's 60.
Yeah, from what was it, 67 up to 93. I have.
Would you still get those ones, or those not as?
That was a hard decision. I was like, because they kept the numbering, I can't have that break, so I gotta, I have to get those reprints, because I figured I have already from 94 up to 544 or whatever it is. At this point, I might as well just try and get them all.
Yeah, and you can get some like cheap lower grade ones and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I have a lot of the big key books already. Like I got the first Sentinels, Banshee's first appearance, stuff like that. Havoc. I think she's back here. Polaris.
Yeah.
I got a lot of the big books already. It's going to be filling in type of thing. And I don't think, like you said, a lot of them you can get for decent prices. It's just 20 and under. Those, regardless, I think I'm going to pay some. So
yeah, nice. No, that's awesome. So, but speaking of earlier, you were mentioning how you'll buy the book and the 3 or 4 variants that go with it. So your collecting is still modern. Like you've not stopped collecting what's coming out.
No, it's weird. So when I got back into, I wasn't doing that. I was just getting the old stuff, and then I don't know what it was that perked my interest. I think it was Hickman's stuff. I was like, okay, I want to see what he's doing, because I kept hearing people talk about it a lot, so I had to check it out. Well, the next thing you know, I was getting all the different series, and then I started looking at new Ghost Rider and basically stuff I used to collect, but the newer series. So
what Hickman run was it that got you hooked? Because we've had a number of people on here now that are modern story readers, and Hickman, at least on the Marvel side, is probably the most common name we hear in terms of who they love, writing wise.
Yeah, it was probably his original series of House of X and stuff. That it was so different from anything that you saw in the X-Men world, and just what it launched it's all new. It was never seen for years and years. It's always they went back to the mansion or they went back to some kind of base. This was just totally different, and it was one of those, okay, something is going to happen eventually. So it's like kind of you're watching something, waiting for that train wreck, and that's basically what they're going through right now, is that train wreck. So
you said you like the covers, but you're reading the stories now.
Yeah, I have been reading the stories, keeping up with it. They sucked me in. They sucked me in the new stuff. And there's a lot of new characters there too that I was never exposed to. Some of them are pretty cool. Like I'm such a big fan of Wolverine. I love Laura Kinney, the all new Wolverine. And I like some of the stuff that they're doing with these characters that I grew up with, like Colossus, Beast. They're doing a lot of flipping with characters.
Wait, what do you mean flipping?
Beast is bad now. Beast is bad now.
Beast
right?
is he's dirty.
Wait,
he's really dirty.
I've heard this. Explain to me, how is Beast bad now?
It was just one of those. They changed his character in the fact that he thinks he's doing something good. He's doing, at all costs for the mutants, the greater good. He doesn't see the bad.
Wait, so is he kind of like Magneto, or mutant superiority is this thing now?
In a way, he thinks he's doing it for the good of mutant kind, and it's just no excuses. He's like, got to do what I got to do.
I think that can make for an interesting story, though. They made a villain
that you just love to hate, that you cannot wait to see get his due.
His up and comings.
Yeah,
comeuppance, that's the term. Yeah.
And it's interesting to see them bring to light characters that were just kind of side characters too. So
wait, and then you mentioned what did they do with Colossus?
Well, they did some weird mind control. He didn't know he was doing bad things, and stuff with his brother. They resolved it at this point in the comics, but it's like he was not the Boy Scout that I remember him being.
yeah, definitely. I mean, especially from the cartoon, he was the cleanest Boy Scout.
Oh yeah, he's yeah. But the thing is he's got guilt over it, even though he didn't have control. So
yeah, got it. So do you have a pull list that you continually pulling then?
Yeah, most of it's X-Men. I was getting Ghost Rider, Moon Knight. Both of those are ending. They're closing out a storyline with them. So it's one of those. I don't know if I'm going to continue. We'll see what the story, where it goes. I usually give it a couple issues, and if it's interesting, I'll keep getting it. Like I was getting Fantastic Four for a while, just the old volume I liked. This new volume, I'm getting ready to drop it because I just.
Well, was it Hickman's run on Fantastic Four that you
liked? No, it was more recent.
Okay.
Not going, but I did actually go back and get his run from, I think it was like 10 years ago or something. It is quite a while ago that he was on Fantastic Four.
Well, was his run the Fantastic Four run that ran into the Secret Wars?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he had a lot to do with that the Ultimate Universe and stuff. Kind of the newer version of it, I guess.
Well, there was also the Ultimates that he did, right? Was it Bendis?
I thought Bendis was the Ultimates guy.
I can't remember. It was supposed to be a storyline where they had some earthquake and they had to go figure out what it was, and they thought that was gonna play into the Black Panther, where Namor came from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so and that seems, I heard that was a pretty good storyline too. It's like six issues, 6 episodes, 6 issues. But I did have the Secret Wars, but I just sold that and I didn't get a chance to read it because I figured I'll just buy the paperback to read the story.
Yeah, there's a lot of those limited series because it seems like there's a lot of them now. That I just wait for the trades and save a little bit of money, and then I don't have to hunt them down too.
You know, hunt them all down, and if you ruin the trade, it doesn't matter. You're just there to read it.
Yeah, yeah.
So then, Eric, talk to us about just collecting in general. You pick up new books every week. You're filling back the old X-Men run. Is that kind of where you're focusing, or are you a run collector? Do you collect anything else? Like what?
By default, I think I am a run collector. I'm not as much of a key collector. I mean, if I get a key, that's great. But a lot of times I like reading the stories, and I'm so OCD that I won't start reading it until I have a good chunk that I can read it uninterrupted. So yeah, I think I'm more of a run filler, which for these old books, it's kind of a pain in the butt because it's like I have a lot from, like the 80s and 90s, the late 80s, early 90s, just because that's when I was in my heyday of collecting. But since I've gotten older, I started looking at stuff that is even older than that. And to find that stuff is it's hard, because a lot of it just from time, it doesn't survive. And, but fortunately, I'm not picky. I mean, I love, and on my channel, I do this a lot, is I love dollar books. So I'll dig through dollar bins, and I've bought comics that it had no business being in the dollar bin. I mean, they're barely held together anymore, but I'll get them because I love that discovery of finding something that's like, oh, I didn't have this, or, oh, this is for this storyline that I'll pay $1. I'm losing $1. Even if the cover's falling off, I don't care. So
yeah. So then what are some of the other runs beyond X-Men are you collecting?
Well, my most recent one is Submariner. So I've been getting the old Submariner. I was a big fan of the Namor series from the 80s, 90s that John Byrne started.
Oh yeah. The picture of him flying out, right? That's a good.
Yeah. I was a big fan. I was like a year ago, I finished that whole run. Finally, those late ones getting into the 90s were hard to find, but I found them. And now it's like, I still like that character. So I started picking up that original series from the 60s here and there when I'd find them.
Yeah, I can see a 1 on the back of your wall there.
Yeah, I think I have. That's the reprint of #1.
Oh, okay. I can just see the image of him. I can't tell.
I had First Tiger Shark up there. I think I just took it down. You like who I have him next to? I put him next to Aquaman just.
Oh yeah.
So they can fight each other when I'm not in here.
Here's one I found in a dollar bin.
Yeah, see, it amazes me the stuff that you find in a dollar bin.
But that isn't it? Namor's like colored in green, right?
Somebody colored him green, yeah.
I mean,
maybe they wanted the Hulk versus Thing, and they're like, I'll just color this one in.
Well, they wanted him to be more like Aquaman, but that's not. I mean, they stayed in the lines. So I'm happy about that.
I mean, this is one I just found. I've been hunting for a while. It's the first appearance of his cousin, and I couldn't find it for under $50.
His cousin Namorita?
Yeah.
Okay.
I found this in my local store it was in a dollar bin.
Is it still $50, or since the movie came out, it kind of dropped off?
I think it's dropped off, but I still see high grades up there over $100, which I understand. It's a nice grade book. So, but yeah, I've been that, and I mean, if it has Dr. Doom on it, I'm gonna buy it regardless of what series. Doom guy? I love Doom. I got my little statue back there that my wife got me. I don't. That's a good one right there. I don't get why I like Doctor Doom. I was never a Fantastic Four fan.
Do you
But
like Darth Vader?
Yeah, I do like
That's
Darth
why I like
Vader.
Dr. Doom. They're probably the same guy. That's where Lucas got his idea for
Yeah.
Darth Vader.
And I think he's the type of character that he crosses over all the other
Everything. He is,
you know,
he is the Spider-Man of the villains. Like,
yeah.
everyone crosses paths with Doom. I mean, like, I was like, he's in Luke Cage books, for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think
What's he doing street
he's
level,
fought
but-
every major superhero, really. And I mean, he's even had his own series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have the Marvel Superheroes 20? The Doctor Doom cover. That's one of the best ones they've had for him.
Yeah, that's my,
do.
yeah.
Besides Fantastic Four 5, but
Yeah, I mean, if I see him, I'm going to grab him. And then what else am I a big draw for me? I did mention Ghost Rider, Moon Knight. I've gone down the Moon Knight hole a little bit. I think right now I'm concentrating on Ghost Rider and 70s books. So
which Moon Knight run are you doing? The
fairly recent stuff from like the last 20 years. I haven't dived into the 80s yet. So
let me ask
stuff.
both of you guys this then. Wait, go ahead. What were you say, JP?
The artist Platt, I don't know his first name, but he drew Moon Knight, I think 44 through 50, and they're one of the more highly sought after because he was considered to be the next McFarlane just because of his detail work. He's got great covers. So I don't know. I can never find those in the wild.
I think they were low print runs too at that time.
But those are ones I would go after. That's volume 2, I think. Or 3, I don't know, but yeah.
Let me ask you guys this question, since you both know a little bit about Moon Knight. When we grew up in those 80s, 90s, I never knew who Moon Knight was. I only knew of him because I had a Marvel card that had Moon Knight on him, but I just like, he's just some random character. And then now I know he came out in the Bronze Age, and like there are some serious Moon Knight fans, and I'm kind of curious, did you guys know about him as kids?
I'm trying to think how I was introduced. I was probably introduced through Spider-Man because I know he was in Spider-Man here and there. Punisher, I think he kind of ran around the circles with Punisher and Daredevil because he was like a street level type of vigilante.
He fought the Punisher in one of the Punisher annual series, and he was in a Spectacular Spider-Man, I don't know, somewhere around the 20s with a Moon Knight. Maybe it was later, but those are expensive Spectacular Spider-Man books.
Yeah.
With Moon Knight in them. I don't think I like Darkhawk better than Moon Knight and Sleepwalker. So
I knew more of Darkhawk and Sleepwalker as a kid than I did of Moon Knight, to be honest. And not that I was.
And then there's Shadowhawk. You had Shadowhawk from Image, which was cooler than Moon Knight at the time. Remember Shadowhawk from Image?
I don't remember Shadowhawk at all.
It didn't last long once it got to.
Yeah.
Who drew that? Was that Larson or somebody else drew this Shadowhawk?
That was.
I can't remember.
Started with a V, Valento or something like that. I mean, he worked on. God, what did he do? I think he was working on Guardians of the Galaxy at that when he was at Marvel before he jumped over.
Guardians of the Galaxy, another one I only knew of because I had that Series 3 card that had the team up of them, and I never knew of them until that movie came out.
Yeah, and then they changed it, really.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the thing too. They're coming out with the Fantastic Four movie, and we're all excited because we were probably Silver Surfer fans. I know Rohan is, and I was too. But
I'm just a big Fantastic Four fan too, I should say.
I don't think I was. I mean, I liked the movies that they had in the early 2000s, but I never collected the books. So I'm like, I'm excited for the movie, but I'm like, they weren't a big draw in the 90s because
not many people watch. It wasn't nearly as prolific as like the X-Men cartoon or the Spider-Man cartoon, but there was a Fantastic Four cartoon, and I used to watch it. Used to play. I remember before I went to school, in the mornings early, it would play back to back, or it would go every other day. Like one day, like Monday would be Fantastic Four, Tuesday would be Iron Man, and they would just go back and forth every day, switching. And I used to watch it, and I loved the Fantastic Four cartoon.
I think that stuff's all on Disney Plus.
It is because I went back because I remember as a kid.
It's hard to go back.
They do the Galactus trilogy in the Fantastic Four cartoon. And so when Disney Plus came out and all that content was on there, I was like, oh, I got to go back. That was so awesome. man, when you watch it now, you're like, that was so corny.
Yeah,
I
Uh,
don't remember that. I
it's
don't remember
bad.
that. I don't.
But I mean, to be perfectly honest, like I loved the X-Men cartoon, and like, you know, pre coming up to X-Men 97, I was like, I'm gonna go back and watch some of these. And even a lot of those, especially the last season.
Yeah, the last
is like-
season was
the last
rough.
season is not good.
Yeah.
And then even just, I mean, in general, like it is another time we were kids. Like as an adult, it's hard for those to hold up as much, I find. So
Yeah, there's very few, I think, children's cartoons, especially at that time period, 80s,
Yeah.
90s, that hold up to today.
Yeah.
Whether it be just the technology, you know, it was just animation was so different back then. Everything was done by hand, and you know, and the voice acting sometimes didn't match up with the animation as well. And so, yeah, it's sometimes, and I think just the writing too in general, it's like, okay, this is what they thought children were really into. So then you go back and you watch it. How did I like this?
yeah.
Right,
Well, not to mention, like when we talk specifically of X-Men, like one of my I know you've obviously watched X-Men 97 because you do the council,
Mhm.
but like one of my favorite things about X-Men 97 is that they do not hold back from
No.
showcasing the characters' powers. And when you watch the original X-Men cartoon, like they really don't like they like show like some basic things like that, but like not very, it doesn't go very far with it. And like I remember like when you see X-Men 97, you're like, oh, this is what this is what I'm talking about.
I think the original was almost like the cliff notes for the
Mhm.
X-Men. You know, they give you a taste of the storyline and resolve it so quick, and it was very action oriented. So they would give you all that action, which, you know, that's what they were gearing it towards, was, you know, the young boys to go get the toys and then get the comic and stuff like that. And maybe then they could fill in those blanks that the animation, you know, show did. But yeah, it's hard to go back because in
Yeah.
the new show, it almost feels like the new one is not so much geared towards the kids from back then, but just adults in general.
Well, yeah, I think it's geared for I think that's exactly it. I don't feel like X-Men 97 is made for my kids, right? Or when they get
No.
like it's made for us. We are the demographic it's made
Yeah.
for. And yet now and we're all here now losing our minds over it, obviously.
I have yet to watch one episode of it.
You don't watch any of it, JP?
No.
Oh, dude.
You know, they give me a
I-
hard time because they want to talk about the new episode. I mean, half of them already watched it today.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, I wait for the weekends, and usually it's like I get 2 weeks behind, and I have to ignore whatever they're talking about. You know,
That's why
Right.
it's funny because like we have this group texter that we've mentioned on the show before with a bunch of those guys like Ryan from Colossus. And one of the guys, Bruce of Up North Comics, he literally like in the texter today was at like, you know, he's East Coast. So for me, it was like 6 a.m. I want to say. So 9 a.m. for him. He's like, anyone watch the new episode yet? I'm like, that just came out today. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Like, how did you? He's like, I just got done watching it. I'm like, well, I'll watch it tonight. But yeah, I mean, of course, like things happen. I'm like, it's not like I have to watch it on Wednesday, but
I can wait. I can wait till I
Yeah.
get free time. I mean, I didn't have a huge connection to the original series, and some of that's probably just based on my age. When that was out, I was in college, so I didn't have time or money or anything like that to sit and just watch that. I was out and about trying to pay my, you know, my rent for my apartment and make sure I had schoolwork done. So
Yeah, I was in college at the same time, so I watched it, but I wasn't adamant. I mean, I liked it, but I can't, nothing against the cartoon, but we talked to, who was it, Rohan, some months back about Star Wars and what episodes to watch, and the Clone Wars
Bianca.
Bianca. And I have yet to watch the Clone Wars to fill
I
in
don't
the
think
gaps.
I've watched that either.
yeah. So the
JP.
I
difference here,
can't go back to watch cartoons. I just can't. I don't
I
know.
know,
why.
and I totally get that because I definitely tried to do. She gave us she gave us a list because like Clone Wars is like, was it 6 seasons, 5 seasons? I don't remember
Yeah.
what it is,
Oh yeah.
and it's
It's like,
a lot.
it's like the
and-
size of Game of Thrones episode wise.
Yeah, and then but she was like, you don't need to watch every one. I'll give you this list I got that shows like the key. And so I made it quite a ways, but it's like it's hard to pick. Like, but that's an example of it's a newer cartoon, but it is made for children. Like it's
Whereas
not made
97, the new 97's made for us.
exactly. Like it just happens to be a cartoon. Like if it was a show with live action, it would just be as awesome. It just happens to be the cartoon. Where yeah, like I would just like put on the Clone Wars and it's like, okay, here we go. And it's not made for adults.
I have this discussion with my oldest son that he thinks the prequels were better than the original movies of Star Wars. And I don't agree with them, but I think that
No one
gap
with sense agrees with them.
I think the younger kids agree with him, and us, we don't. But
Yeah.
I think the Clone Wars may have helped people see that side of Anakin, and that's what I was trying to like tell him, because I never liked the character of Anakin the way they portrayed him in the original in the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting this X-Men 97, it just like if it's geared to us, then we can watch it, but I just still can't catch up with a cartoon. I want to watch the Clone Wars to be able to fight with my son over why the originals are better, but I can't watch it. And I want to watch 97 because I keep hearing the whole group of our people talk about how great it is, but I just can't do it. Not yet. I'm sure one of these days I'll watch it, but I just haven't. Not that I don't have a chance. I have to watch it in live action.
I will tell you too, just on this topic, like Invincible is another one that's a cartoon that's, I wouldn't say it's made for, it's definitely not made for kids because it's bloody as hell.
Yeah.
But I'd rather watch The Boys over Invincible.
Sure. No, I understand. I totally get.
I don't know why that is, because I enjoyed that stuff growing up. We all enjoyed the cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I missed the Hanna-Barbera cartoons with who was the guy with the lightsaber, but he was the.
Oh my gosh, you're talking my jam now, JP. Thundar. I have the box set of that, and I pull it out every once in a while. I watch all the episodes.
Wait, what is Thundar?
Thundar the Barbarian.
He was like Conan and Luke Skywalker into one person, right? Because he had a lightsaber, but he was like the barbarian
the sun sword.
Future. Yeah.
Oh, I was born in '83, so I guess this was before my time.
I remember Thundar and the Space Ghost.
Space Ghost, yeah. Which is
I knew of Space Ghost because I remember seeing it on Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
Right. We saw the original version back on TV, but that's what we like that stuff. And I could watch that again because nostalgia, but for some reason the stuff that when I was in college, we weren't watching that stuff. Nothing against it, but I mean, I think the 80s stuff I could rewatch that, but the 90s maybe I can't. Who knows why, but we all change over time, so maybe I will eventually.
Yeah,
but nothing against nerds who do that stuff, Rohan.
What's that phrase? Like six half one, whatever that's six half.
Six and a half one does, and the other one.
Yeah, exactly. Say we're all nerding out on something over here. Eric, talk to us about your channel. When did you start? Why did you start? What is it about? Like, tell people. Like, assume that people watching has never seen your channel. Give us kind of the rundown.
Okay, so I started, I think, the channel at that time. I was just getting back into comics and I was getting real passionate about it. And I do remember I was sharing posts like on Instagram and stuff. And then I saw that there's a community for it. Now, back when I was younger collecting, there was nothing like that. If you wanted to talk to like-minded people, you went to the comic store and you hung out there for, hours and hours type of thing. Now, I discovered that there was a community for it, and I started watching a lot of it. It was content that I could absorb when I wasn't reading or, at the store myself. And I think a lot of us started with Mike from Lunch Money Comics. He was a big part of, I was watching him, and I was like, oh, so I can collect and I don't have to worry about chasing those big books, and just have fun with it. He kind of showed me just have fun with it. And then I got turned on to Brandon's channel. And then I started talking to some of these guys, through messaging and stuff like that. And they kind of, I said that I kind of was thinking of doing it because I've had experience with podcast and other stuff like tabletop gaming. I've done different shows for tabletop gaming. Actually, I still do one right now for miniature gaming. So I kind of had the experience already and the know-how. And I have a little bit of a background in radio broadcasting too, from college and stuff like that. And I was like, I think I could do this. I've done shows where I've had co-hosts, but I'd never done one by myself. And Brandon actually kind of urged me. He's like, try it, just jump in and see what you come up with. And I came up with the idea of, I'm just going to have fun. I don't care about subscribers. I don't care about likes and chasing the content of what people want to see. I'm just going to put out what I enjoy doing. So a lot of my channel is me just going out and hunting, the journey of basically, I call it side quest comics, because it's like I have those main quests of completing runs, or, maybe I do have that Grail list, but I get distracted a lot. I find those dollar bins and I start digging in them. And next thing I know, I got a stack that I'm coming home with that weren't really books I was chasing, but I still do like them. I want them for whether it's, Marvel 2-in-1 or Team Up or something that I was too young for when it came out type of thing, or I just completely missed it. So that's what a lot of my videos are, is stuff like that. I came up with, I think it's still evolving, my identity for the channel, because I think I've only been doing it for like 6 months now. It was October that I started actually posting stuff. But I've been trying to do a lot of those videos that's like dollar dive in. Here, let's pull out random comics and talk about why did I get these books, type of thing. Or haul videos, because I do try to go to the flea markets and find those cheap books, because watching what's on there, there's a lot of spec type stuff, and I'm like, that's just not me. Mm-hmm. I'm at that age where I don't care about that stuff. I just want the story to read,
Now, where do you live at roughly? Like, I am a lot of flea markets near you and things like that.
They're come and go. They come and go. I'm just north of Chicago, so okay. You think Chicago would have a lot around it? It actually doesn't really. There's not a lot of stores. I think there's 3 stores in my county, and that's it.
Three comic stores.
3 comic shops.
Comic stores.
Okay, and then what about like in the antique stores?
Not a whole lot. We have the fairgrounds, Lake County Fairgrounds, which is just the county fairgrounds. If I go up into Wisconsin, there's some smaller places like at the Legion. They'll have a show, but usually it's like toys / collectible. So they might have a couple vendors that have comics. I'm still trying to find those good places. So that's another thing that I like to feature on the show, is just, hey, there's this place I found. So it's kind of like, let's get the information out there for other people that are maybe like me looking for those places.
So if you find a gold mine, you're not keeping it a secret for yourself then.
No. Yeah. There was one that I just revealed not that long ago.
You're like, I tapped it out, time to put it on the channel.
I debated about revealing this, but you know what? Since I did, it's probably my highest rated video on the channel, because a lot of people are just like, oh my God, this place is awesome. And that's what I've thought about for a long time. I'm like, this place is awesome.
Is it a comic shop or is it an antique store?
It's weird. They do have a storefront, but they're not your traditional comic store. It's a guy that basically buys collections, and then he'll pull the keys or big books or whatever and sell them on his eBay store. But then anything overstock wise, like fillers, he just has in a storefront, and they're like $2, $5.
So this is your jam then.
Oh my gosh. The end of the month, I go in there when he slashes prices to $1. I'll come home with 2 short boxes and just be like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Well, so let me ask you that, Eric, since you said that to start, you were saying that, Mike showed you that you don't have to chase the big books to have fun in this hobby. So, that's what a lot of us do. But so is that not a goal of yours then? Not say there's
no,
wrong,
I mean, I do have some of those as goals, but it's one of those that I don't actively chase them or hunt them down. It's one of those, they're in the back of my mind. And if I come across it and it's a good deal, maybe I'll pick it up. But a lot of it for me is just, let's just have fun. Like I mentioned, a lot of times I get stuff for the artwork. Mm-hmm. I mean, it may be a character I don't even care about, but if it's got really nice artwork, especially some of this classic art from the 70s of artists that I really wasn't exposed to when I was collecting.
Who are some of your favorites? Just curious.
Well, I can see in the background behind you to your right is the Spec Spider-Man 101. The who did that one? I just rolled off the top of my head.
Which one are we talking about?
That's John Byrne up
Oh,
there.
that's John Byrne, the black and
Yeah,
white.
the reverse black. That's
John
awesome.
Byrne was a big one for me back in the day, but I've recently fallen in love with John Buscema, who did the Hulk, did Conan for years and years and years and years, and his brother Sal did the Hulk. So I mean, that was, I think my exposure to him was when he did Wolverine Volume 2.
Yeah. Wolverine 8 is one of my favorite covers.
This series, he did this for a while, so that was my first exposure to him. But I've recently I think the last year, I've just fallen in love with Conan. I love the writing.
I see him behind you there,
yeah. Oh my God, Roy Thomas. It's just, Conan is such a meathead, but I find it so entertaining that he solves problems.
Hence your
by
love of
hitting it
Ogre.
hard. Yes.
Which the same guy who used to make fun of me and call me nerd, and the guys that we talked to back in the old neighborhood, he called everybody else a meathead who used to lift weights. So that's so funny that you said that. That was the exact term for the guy. Yeah. Holy shit.
I mean, I think some of that with Conan, though, is I grew up, my dad loved sword and sorcery. So we watched Conan and Destroyer all the time and Beastmaster, all that stuff from the early 80s.
Was the best movie from the 80s. I was so scared of quicksand because of that damn movie. I didn't want to fall in. I looked everywhere in my backyard for quicksand. Because
I mean, I remember back then, I thought tigers came in black.
And I figured I could get eagles to fall, just come right to my
JP just walk around in his backyard.
Yeah.
So all that stuff, Krull, we watched. Yes. So I had kind of that sorted sorcery in me. So I like that. What else have I been getting into? Some of those classic artists. I did say Roy Thomas. Oddly enough, I like Kirby.
Yes.
I don't know what it is. I think
it's awesome. It's just,
I know that hurts you, JP.
It's just I just love the classic vintage style he has. I love it.
I think what it is, it's I look at the way he lays out stuff. I mean, I went to school for art, so a big stress.
Yeah, JP, did you go to school for art?
I
did. Was that layout? I mean, I still have some of those. Learn how to draw the Marvel comics way.
Draw. This is how you draw Jack Kirby style. Look, I can't even make out what the hell's on the damn cover. That's terrible. Terrible.
So I think it's not so much that work, but it's his panel work that draws me in, because he had a way of moving your eye from panel to panel that I enjoy. It's very fluid, is what it is, I think. And I mean, yeah, I don't especially like some of the characters he designed, like New Gods. I'm not big fans of them. Demon is okay. I mean, I'm not the biggest DC fan, so. Yeah,
he had OMAC, and he had Silver Star, the
Commandy. I mean, I like the world of Commandy, but the comics kind of like. Yeah, so he's one of those, and I think some of that is just he's one of the OG guys, you know. So I kind of respect that.
If you go back to the 50s music, it inspired what we have today. So I can't. Some of that music I like, some of it I don't. Jack Kirby, I'm not my favorite, but he inspired the people that make what we like now. So I can't knock him for that. It's just not. I would still buy his books because a lot of those keys that he drew are keys for fantastic.
The entire Silver Age, he's got a hand on, essentially.
Yeah.
So.
Even some of that late stuff he did in the 80s and 90s, you know.
If you compare Steranko,
that's nice,
to what Kirby did. Like, why didn't they get this guy to do more work, and Buscema and Byrne than Kirby? I don't understand. Kirby must have been able just to churn out more work in order to.
I think he was that old school artist that could just pump it out.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. Like, when you think about it, like in the 60s, the amount of titles he was working on, and they were coming out every month, it's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, he was drawing X-Men, Avengers, Fantastic Four.
Which character didn't he draw? Because he came to DC and he drew
Dick
some Superman.
Spider-Man was like the only main run he wasn't involved with. I feel like.
I don't
He
think-
actually did the cover of AF-15.
He did.
Yeah, because there's the cover that Ditko did for AF-15. Stan Lee didn't like, and so he asked Jack Kirby to make a new cover, and so he did the cover of AF-15. And actually, is it Spider-Man 700 or something that has a variant that is or has on the back the original Ditko cover. The AF-15 cover is way better than that.
I thought that was Ditko that did the cover for 15.
No, you could tell like Ditko's Spider-Man. You can definitely tell
he's the fatter Spider-Man, right?
I don't know if I'd say fatter. It's just.
I thought he made it a little chubby.
Good old Aunt May's cooking.
Yeah, too much. Yeah, he wasn't the slender guy that we know today. But all right, I didn't realize that. I don't think Kirby drew Batman though, did he?
No. I mean, no, not that I'm aware.
But he drew Superman. He was in Forever People. Drew Superman.
So, well, he did Jimmy Olsen.
Yep. Yeah, Commandy. But I don't think he did Batman or Spider-Man. So I like McFarlane's one of my favorites. So I like to see when he would draw characters that weren't his main.
Yeah.
Hulk and Spider-Man, like when he drew Wolverine and Ghost Rider and some of those runs. Whereas Kirby, I don't think he ever drew Batman that maybe, I don't know. He drew so much
that I'm
stuff.
aware of.
But he does. I have a Forever People with him drawing Superman. So you know how he would have interpreted Superman. But I don't think he did Batman. The one he didn't do. I would have liked to see how boxy he would have made Batman.
Probably be very similar to Dark Knight, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
The cartoon, yeah. Yeah, that's a good. Which I love that. I love that animation of that. Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, he made an impact, so I won't knock him any further.
Yeah. So Eric, how often are you like releasing content then on the channel?
When I first started, I was doing a crazy schedule of 2 a week. And I made it through the holidays. So I did it for about 3 months, and man, I was ragged. And I was like, okay, I gotta think about this. I gotta reapproach what do I want for the channel type of thing.
Now, real quick, for people that don't know, like how long would you say a video is, and then does it require a lot of time editing?
I was doing probably, after editing, the videos were around 20 minutes. I was trying to stick to 20 minutes or under. And then now, more recently, since I have a little bit more time, I've been going over that 20 minutes. So now I'm averaging like 30 minutes.
But how long does it take you to edit one of those videos?
Probably a couple days.
Oh yeah, and if you're doing 2 a week, that would definitely.
It was rough. I mean, and with my regular job, it's like I was during Christmas time at the post office. Holy cow!
Oh,
I get home, I eat real quick, and come sit at the computer to edit. There's sometimes when I'm pretty good at editing. It's like when I record it, I have it all planned out in my head, so it goes smoothly. That when I'm editing it, I don't have very many cuts, or I don't have to, this was weird, so let's cut it out type of thing. But then there's other times where you're just not feeling it. It's like, man, I don't want to sit here and just watch myself talk and, make sure I am sounding clear and stuff like that.
What software do you use? Are you on your iPhone?
No, I'm actually using iMovie on my computer.
Okay.
I basically, if it's me sitting here, I actually use StreamYard because this is what we use for my other channel that I do.
The tabletop games.
Yeah, our tabletop game that where we just talk about independent, tabletop games, miniature games, and so we already have it. So I record with this, and then I just download it and put it together in iMovie, and I mean it's all free basically for me. So I'm not, it's simple enough. I can get it done because I'm at that age where it's any more complicated, it's going to take just more longer.
I will tell you. I mean, I've shared this before on this with the style of this show, because it's interview style, because it's conversational. We just turn on the camera, record, and then I will upload.
Yeah.
Like if it was just me talking, I think there's a component there that I probably would have gotten kind of worn out by that. And then B, if I had to spend hours editing stuff, I don't think I would have lasted myself. So this is again, but everyone does what they enjoy doing, and that's what's most important. Like this is what I enjoy, and so like no, I get that.
I mean, I do find that when I get going, sometimes I ramble a little bit, and it's like I repeat myself, and it's like I just said that like 5 minutes ago. Why am I saying it again? So I have to delete it out, or I'll look at both instances and decide, okay, this one sounds better, so I'm going to cut this one out. And so I try not to do that, but sometimes it's unavoidable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Rohan, you use StreamYard for most of your short clips that we have.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
I try to use my phone because I'm like getting video when I'm out, hunting and whatnot.
I do when I am at a con or whatever. I do use my phone.
But then it just takes longer because then I got to download a 15-minute video to my phone, and I'm almost out of space. And then I got to delete something off, and it just becomes a pain in the butt. Where StreamYard's easier. If I just did an unboxing on StreamYard, upload it and done. But if you got to edit video from a show, it's your phone, and it takes more time.
Yeah. When I record out and about videos, I try to stay on top of them right away, and I'll upload them to like a Google Drive. And then once I'm on the computer, I can just simply download it then and edit it and stuff. A lot of times there's a lot of stuff that I can cut out, whether it's in the front end or the back end. And then I get off my phone. I don't have to worry about it. The worst part about my phone is the speaker is horrible. So it's like, if I'm sitting there recording myself on my phone, it sounds god awful. Like I think this last video I just uploaded, I was outside and it was super windy. So you just hear, I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible.
And then you sound like the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like if you go out somewhere, like you're at a flea market recording and you don't realize how windy it is, and you go like all this great footage and you get back and like, shit, you can't even hear a damn thing I said.
Yeah.
And I got to, do a voiceover on it.
Yeah. That's what I end up. Sometimes I have to do a voiceover on it, or I'll just mute it all. And I just put some text on there, popping up type of thing. Which I like, because then it's like I'm not like, okay, what the heck am I gonna say? What was going on type of thing. But that's that. And if you're recording like say a booth or something, like I like showing people's wall of books, and you have all the backgrounds, like a guy talking about something behind you, and it's just like, man, I gotta turn this guy down. He's maybe cussing or something, I'm like, I can't have that. Because I do try to keep the videos family friendly. That's something that I don't know where that started. That I want everybody to be able to watch it and enjoy it. And if I'm just being crass, who's gonna watch it besides somebody else that's crass?
Yeah.
Ours is not for kids though, right? We don't have. We probably should.
Yeah. Eric, I want to say, because you brought it up a couple times, I actually am very interested to hear, what is your other channel with the tabletop games?
Well, it's on my hat. It's called Indie Invasion Podcast. We actually started as an audio podcast.
Wait, who is we, first off?
Me and one of my buddies that I met in the gaming community.
Okay.
My partner in this his name's Mac. We actually met online through like Facebook groups.
Like JP and I.
Yeah, and it was for a certain game that we used to play that was like a weird Western miniature game. And just since then, over the years, we just kept in contact, talked about, did you see this new game or this game? And then during COVID, it's like, we're locked up. We couldn't go game anymore. So we would get on, what did we start off as? I think Zoom was one of the ones we started with, where we would do kind of like this, just group chat type of thing. And we get on there and just grab our miniatures, and we'd be painting them and, chit-chatting, hanging out.
So this is my question then. So when you say tabletop games, like I've been to some of these gaming stores, and they have those here
I can grab and show
you.
They
have those rooms though, like where people set up the figurines and they're like have the tape measure out and they're like placing. Are these the games you're talking about?
Yeah, like Warhammer. That's probably the biggest one most people would know. Warhammer.
Okay.
Fantasy or 40K. But here's one that our viewers would like. It's Marvel Zombies. It's basically, if you've ever heard of Zombicide, it's a board game. This is their version of that, but just Marvel Zombies.
Got it. So wait,
stuff
in
like
this in this tabletop world, are there like new games coming out a lot often?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's crazy. I mean, you can't. I just bought a Judge Dredd tabletop
Oh,
game.
Ricky just got
Mhm.
excited if he's gonna watch the second part.
I'll have to send him some pictures. I mean, I got it for just the miniatures. I wanted the miniatures to paint them. Being an artist, I liked painting them. I mean, that's what got me into tabletop gaming.
Well, that's also the other thing I think is crazy. Like you go into those gaming stores and they have those other rooms too, where people are just sitting there and they're just like with
Oh.
the little brush and their
Oh, yeah.
guys this big and they're like painting away.
And unfortunately, as I get older, my eyes are getting worse, so it's getting harder to do that.
There,
You
there's
gotta
a
get
guy
rid of
I
those
work-
magnifying glasses that people use for that.
Yep.
There's a guy I work with. I had a job. I was a dishwasher, and the guy I work with washing dishes was a big D&D guy.
Okay.
And I was
yeah.
probably 16 and he was 40. And he was crazier than shit because he lived in a bad neighborhood, but would walk to work with a huge knife so that no one would mess with him. But he was a bigger guy, big chubby guy, but no one really messed with him. But his eyes were protruding from like pushing out from him painting all the D&D figures. And he did some great work though. I mean, he was fabulous, but his eyes were just like protruding out of his head from looking at that stuff.
Yeah,
It's
that's.
crazy.
I think D&D is how I got into that
Yeah.
part of that hobby. Was the miniature painting, and like I said, being an artist, I liked painting them. And I mean, our other channel, what we do too is we focus on the independent games, like the little guys that are putting out their games because they don't have the capital to promote like Games Workshop does.
Mhm.
So we like talking to them, interviewing them. We have a lot of just like painting sessions and.
What's when it comes to hobbies, which is a bigger portion of your time, tabletop or comics?
It's shifting back to comics for me. And I think some of that's just, I got into tabletop gaming for the community aspect. I think it originally started as, I did it when I was a kid, but then when I had a kid, it was something to do with him. And he would kick my butt at all these games we would play. But then he got older and he kind of quit playing them. So I had to find another group if I wanted to keep playing. But even that, now it's like my group is kind of spreading out or they're moving on to different things. And it's like, okay, what am I going to do now other than I can still talk about the stuff? But I think it's shifting towards comics again because it's a hobby that you can do by yourself, right? You don't have to go to the comic store with a buddy to buy comics and read comics. I mean, it's a very solo hobby and you can do it at your own pace. You can. That's the nice thing I think I like about comics is you can collect it. You can do the hobby how you want. There's no right way. If you want to get the big keys, you can get the big keys. If you want to get the beat the shit dollar books like I like, you can do that. And that's fine. It's however you want to enjoy it, I guess, is what really I think started drawing me back into it.
Yeah, I think if you go hunting for comics and you got someone that's looking for the same thing, it's kind of if you got someone who's looking for different stuff, you can help each other out.
Yeah.
But if you're both looking for the same thing, it gets a little competitive. I guess you start on that long box, I'll start here, and we'll fight till we get what we want. But
I will say though, there is something rewarding, and now it has happened to me a couple times. Not that it happens a lot. When you go to a shop and you guys are kind of all there's a couple other people there. And you find like a score and you're like, oh, and then the other person's like, damn it, how did I not find that? Like I've been here like that. That's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, if you win. But if you're the guy who just went through that box and missed
yeah.
it.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I found at my local store, there's some guys there's one particular guy, he's actually trying to replace a huge collection he had that got destroyed in a flooding. And as he's doing that replacement, he's kind of branching out a little bit because he's just like, well, I got nothing basically now, so it's kind of like starting over. So a lot of times it's like we're looking through books, and I have a lot of these books we're looking through, like the X-Men stuff. And I asked him, I'm like, did you ever read this one? You ever seen this one? He's like, no, what's that? And I'm like, oh, you got to get this one. This is when Storm kicks Cyclops' ass and she has no powers. He's at that age that he doesn't remember that coming out, so he missed it a little bit. So he's starting to go, before his era of comics too. So it's kind of fun introducing people that just weren't exposed to that stuff of, oh, you got to check this one out. This is good for maybe the story, the art, or some kind of character development that it's like, this is a reason why such and such happened. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, if you're going just looking for dollar books and you find, like, maybe I'm looking for Dave Stevens and you're looking for X-Men run. Oh, well, here's an X-Men book.
Yeah,
or, and you're passing along because you're in different looking for different things. But I think every comic book store, since most of they don't all have to have it, but there's a Comic-Con near me that they serve beer and food, and I don't think that's a great mix between beer, food, and comic books. So I think comic shops should have beer or wine or something, so while you're looking for books, you can sip some wine.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, the gaming store that I was referencing that we have here in the Seattle area that I've seen, like the tabletop games, they also have board games and things like that. Half of the store is a bar restaurant, and it is nonstop.
Oh yeah.
Every hour they are open, that place is packed.
There's
a couple killing it.
There's a couple places in Chicago proper that are like that are the gaming cafes where you can go in, and I don't think they have any big meals, but you can get a beer, you can get like
fries.
Chicken finger fries. Yeah.
Well, think about if you watch Big Bang, they had the rival comic shop that served coffee. Well, whoever, I forget the guy's name off the top of my head, but he had the loser guy that didn't serve coffee. So, serving some food.
Stewart?
Drink.
I think it was Stewart, right?
Stewart, yes. Thank you.
That sounds right.
So that's the way you're going to do it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, the people will sit there and they'll play for 8 hours, and they'll get some fries here, they'll get a beer, and then they'll get some chicken strips.
I mean, there's a gaming convention. It just happened not that long ago by me. That's tabletop gaming. And it's in a big convention center hotel type of thing. And they have literally a guy that's on like a tricycle, and he rides around the whole place with beer. It's a beer cart. And it's like, if you're in the middle of a tournament or something, you'd be like, oh, there's some beer. You go get beer from him while you're playing this tournament,
That's awesome. Yeah. The Comics Con that I go to that has the beer and whatnot, I'm like out of town by 3 hours, so I can't drink and then drive back 3 hours. But if I was staying overnight, I would definitely do that because there's celebrity there. There's all kind of like, curmudgeon.
That's why I
dealers.
drag my wife to these things.
Yeah.
I mean,
is she on board?
She's on board. She likes doing stuff with me, but I have fun asking her questions about comics in general and just testing her. Like some of my recent videos, I talked her onto coming on the videos, and I came up with this idea with the Marvel. So you had the cards, Rohan. I had the Marvel Universe guidebook basically from the 80s.
Oh,
and, and Who's Who from DC. Well, I found a whole collection of those in dollar bins. And I came up with this idea of, I'm going to ask her, who knows nothing, what she thinks about randomly picked a character. And the stuff she comes up with is just, it cracks me up. I mean, we were flipping through and she saw on the cover, Johnny Storm, he's all flamed up and stuff. She's like, who's this guy? The Human Furnace? I'm like, Human Furnace? I was like, okay.
That's actually pretty close. Human Torch, Human Furnace.
That's like pretty close. So I had a lot of fun going to these events with her. And I think a couple times I actually talked her into doing cosplay too. And it cracks me up because she's a redhead. So of course I warned her the first time we went, I said, be prepared. We're going to a nerd fest. You're a redhead and you're dressed as one of the most popular characters in Marvel. She said, oh, nobody's going to take my picture. I'm like, sure enough, I was pushed off to the side and everybody talked to her. And we went and saw Chris Claremont. I had him sign books and he ended up talking to her the whole time. I just shoved him.
Yeah, he talked to her, so the nerd.
So it's pretty funny. I mean, she's a good sport. She has fun with it, I guess. It's to me, some of it is like I'm introducing her to a world that she's never been exposed to. So it's a lot of fun. It's fun to do it with somebody that's doesn't have the same ties,
Mm-hmm. I just was talking to my wife about the hobby, and she says I'm too nervous to go looking through long boxes with you because I'll probably miss something. I'm like, there's no way you're going to know everything that I've seen over the last 2-3 years of what to get.
Yeah.
So it's either just enjoy it for the difference, because her world had nothing to do with comics. It's athletics, and that's a different world than the nerd world,
Yeah. Yeah.
We can coexist, but it's two different worlds.
JP's looking at comics, and she's gonna be talking to Ogre here pretty soon.
I had no worries there. I got it covered. But I mean, exactly. It's just it's a different world, like you said, for your wife. It's just something to introduce her to, and I've been trying to get her to go to these things. But
I did get her to start reading a little bit, but it's nothing superhero related. I got her hooked on horror stuff like Ice Cream Man and Something Killing the Children. She loves that stuff because it's just so I think she's got that secret dark side that she likes, that horror movie aspect. And
this may be like a female. I mean, because like women love those. No. I'm saying like females, like how many women do you know, like my wife included, love those like murder documentaries on?
Oh my God,
like,
dude! I come home, that's what she's watching.
That's all my. It's
on
this
on
girl got
HLN,
kidnapped
on Sirius Satellite Radio, right?
This girl got kidnapped in a park and now she's dead, and this girl. It's just like
the unsolved mystery stuff.
Yes, it drives.
She loves that stuff.
Yeah,
it's on Sirius Satellite Radio, like channel 117. They have all the forensic files.
Yeah, it's just even on like Friday and Saturday night, I'll come into the room and be like, "What are you watching?" Like, "Oh, this." And it's like, "This is what you're watching right now?" Like, really?
Yeah, and my stuff's not appropriate. What are you talking about? Come on now.
Yeah. Eric, this has been a ton of fun. Thanks for coming on to the show. Tell everyone real quick before we wrap up here where they can find it. I want to know again what the name of the tabletop game channel is as well. And so give
tabletop channel is Indie Invasion Podcast. We are pretty much exclusively just on YouTube. So if you put in Indie Invasion Podcast, you'll find us. We do weekly live shows on Thursdays, similar to this. And then like this week, we got a hobby stream coming out where we'll have, if anybody has a camera and stuff, they can join us and we just sit around, chit chat, like you're going to the store to sit down and work on projects. And then for SideQuest Comics, you can find me on YouTube at SideQuest Comics and also on Instagram at the same name. On Instagram, I try to post every couple days like I do. I have themes where I do Mutant Mondays or What's New Wednesday, Friday First, stuff like that. And I like posting. I haven't done it in a while, but I like going through these old books, finding those old ads like for Hostess cupcakes or whatever, and Spider-Man foils some villain, by giving them Hostess cupcake. I like finding those old ads and I'll post stuff like that. So a lot of my stuff is just about sharing the journey of just discovering stuff you never knew existed or stuff that you're really into, like whether it's X-Men or Moon Knight, stuff like that.
Awesome. Yeah. Again, thanks again for coming on. This has been a ton of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
We'll definitely have to bring you back down the line, get the updates on what's going on, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I am right now. I'm still trying to figure out to get to that con in the East Coast that everybody's going to.
Yeah.
I talked my wife into it. I said, there's a casino, and I know she's got that horseshoe, in her back pocket. So I say, you could go in the casino and win me some money, and then I'll go buy those big books.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be quite the dream.
If you get there and you bet on black and won like 10 grand, you're like, man, done. What am I going to get with 10 grand?
Yeah. What am I going to get? Then I'd be overwhelmed. Oh my God.
I know. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on. I enjoyed it as well. And I don't know what we say here. We'll see everybody on the next episode, the next unboxing.
Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Hit that button. Smash that
Check
button.
The link in the description.
Yeah.
Like, comment, subscribe. So
all the usual things you say.
Yep. But we'll see everybody in the next episode. Peace out.
Peace out, guys.